Okay, so today I wanted to talk about combat from the perspective of the storyteller and how to kind of set things up to make it tactical and interesting and not just the same circle every single time. So it is going to be the same circle every single time, but we're going to go through 3 scenarios where I kind of mix things up and the players seem to like it. So the first one was 2 boats that were docked side by side and there was a gangplank going between them. So we blocked off D7, C4, C2, D3. We had 3 enemies with musket in these slots. And then the player and his 2 little pirate buddies were in these slots. So the only path appears to be down the middle, which is going to take a very long time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns of just movement to get into melee, assuming they don't move towards us. So the scenario was 2 boats next to each other. These players could have used harpoons, they could have used ropes, they could have done a lot of things to try to cross this gap quickly. It would require a skill check and some context, maybe some magic. Ultimately, they ended up just having a little shooting fight, and these guys surrendered. They intimidated them. But just 4 blocks change the dynamic of the combat completely. So going into our next example, we had a banshee in the middle of a little row of houses. So it was like a little village with little stone cottages, and this banshee had appeared in the middle of a circle, basically. So we had the banshee in the middle, and then interspersed throughout the outside, we had cottages, right? Little houses. Not all of them, but most of them. So there was still a path to get through, but what changed was players could climb the houses. They got on the roof, they could go inside, they could shoot down from it with their ranged weapons, but had the Banshee gotten to like C2, they could not attack melee up and down. And that's a minor change, but again, it has tactical considerations. So these little tweaks like this can really change the way that combat feels. The last example is maybe my favorite because I haven't run it yet. It's for an upcoming adventure. So the scenario is that they're in a dungeon that is themed on water, and they're going to fight some Kappa demons. And the way this is going to work is that the outer ring, all of D, is going to be filled with water. And they're going to be Kappas on C and maybe B. And there's going to be 1 Kappa in the water. Now, the Kappas that I've made up have twice the movement in water, and they double attack. They're scary in water, right? So the goal is to not get in the water. And so players will start on the grid. And the Kappas on land, all they do is they push. They're little sumo wrestlers. And their entire goal is to knock the player into the water so the other Kappa can get them. If players manage to knock all the Kappas in the water or kill them, then the Kappas will surrender. So, as you can see, like, there are options. It is a little claustrophobic, right? Because only so many guys are going to fit on the board, but that's by design. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So the goal of the battle board is to resolve theater of the mind combat without having to ask every 2 seconds, where am I? Is he close enough? What direction? Which orc? That sort of thing. But you still want to keep it narrative as you play through. You don't want to do straight mechanical combat. So we want to resolve the situation as quickly as we can, focusing on just what is relevant and happening. And as you saw with the 3 different examples, the scale changes, but the map doesn't. So we had a whole town square. We had 1 room. We had just the edge of 1 boat and another boat and a gangplank. So these can be big areas, these can be small areas. You use the context to kind of give each one meaning and work out the details. So to keep the story going, the pirates had a little shooting match here, and we had all this context set up so that we could work through the scene in a collaborative way. They chose to keep shooting, but they could have jumped the water. They could have used harpoons. They could have ran back onto their own boat, and then we would wipe the board, and go to the next scene that needs a visual representation. If we don't need a visual representation, then we just play through dialogue. Like it's not that complicated if you're fighting one guy, right? You don't need the whole battle board. So we've talked about hazards, terrain, like you could make this water half movement or like thick grass, or terrain features like houses. We've talked about objectives, right? Crossing the gangplank, getting the kappas into the water, or retrieving an item and getting out. Any of those are good objectives. You generally don't want to fight to the death. So we've talked about scale. We've talked about telling a story. So the last thing we're going to talk about is actually a mechanic. It's reinforcements. And it allows you, the storyteller, to really scale things in a dramatic way and also not kill your players or kill your players. So we're going to say that Juniper and Daggeth are making their fight. They're fighting these guys, and you want more enemies to be coming down the pike. The way that this works in Words of Power is you place them outside of the spot where they'll join for at least one turn, but preferably multiple turns. So if we say you can hear guards coming from all directions, we'll place these guards here, and we will mark in the turn order when they will join, right? So maybe they'll join in 4 rounds. So we'll put it here, and then each round we'll just move it up, move it up, move it up, until they come in. Then they'll come in here, and they'll act. So what you can do with objective-based storytelling combat on the battle grid is, even though this might be a winning fight for the players, you can place guys out here that will be here in a minute and really drive the urgency of whatever the objective is. And if they get it done and they get out before these guys arrive, that's great. If they don't, right, if they wipe these guys real quick and they're just hanging out, and they wipe these guys real quick and they're hanging out, you could just keep bringing more reinforcements, as many as you want. Words of Power is secretly a wave defense game. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, you can also, if they struggle with these 3, you can have these 2 guys take as long as you want. Or just cut it off when you plan to have 3 or 4 waves. And in this way, Words of Power really focuses on objectives and storytelling and resolving only the situation that we need to resolve, and then getting off the battle board, back to combat. So these are just some of the things that storytellers should be thinking about when they're planning combats for this game.